Chuck Violand founded Violand Management Associates in 1987 after a decade running a carpet cleaning and restoration company in Cleveland. He's been in the trade since 1977, served as RIA president in 2015, and has spent 37 plus years coaching contractors with growth ceilings that trap most owners. In this episode, Chuck breaks down why 90 to 96% of North American business owners never crack $1 million in revenue. Walks through his me, we, them framework, the 3 stages of growth, and shares the moment a client at a stoplight looked over at him and said, "Chuck, I'm bored." A word he says will kill a small business faster than almost anything else out there. He covers why you should train people even if they leave, the 3 words that test whether your ego is in check, and why running a business never gets easier. You just get better problems. Any contractor stuck bumping against the stage 2, this one's worth your time. Hey, Chuck, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. So if you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Chuck is, which I don't know how you can't, I have just met you personally in the last couple of weeks, but I certainly have known your name and heard of you. So it's an absolute honor to be able to speak to you here today. But for those people who are not familiar with you and familiar with your consulting company as well, if you could just kind of like, what's been your experience and kind of how involved are you in the industry?
Well, my involvement in the industry isn't as much as it was years ago. At one point, back in, I think, 2015, I was the president of RIA, Restoration Industry Association. At that time, I was also running Violand Management, the consulting practice that I founded in 1987. So I've been in the industry personally since 1977. I've had Violand Management since 87. So, and that's what I've been doing.
How did you get into that? How did you get into consulting? In what respect were you involved in the industry before that?
Yeah, really, that's a good question. I owned a cleaning and restoration business in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. And I came to the realization doing what I was doing there was what really juiced me. Yeah. Working with people and helping people grow, helping companies grow was what I was finding a passion in. So I was able to leverage what I built at Violand at the restoration company that I had into a consulting practice.
Very cool. So what's particularly drawn me to your system, and then I talk about this a lot on the show, it's so challenging to put this industry in a box and systematize it, right? And that's how you really unlock growth. In order to be able to do that, you need to kind of understand what the problems are and where you are and what problems you are facing now and what's not unusual and what problems you're going to face in the future. Because you always kind of want to be setting yourself up to attack those issues. Right. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you've put these different growth factors in stages and what you can expect. And this is done a lot with different consulting businesses in general, but I think it's very unique for the restoration business because scaling it is so challenging. So if you could, and we won't go deep into it, we're going to go more into stage 2 today, but if you could just let us know like what stages you have identified, what problems are they typically see, and then maybe a few things, but we won't go too deep into it, but a few things that, hey, this has been successful in getting out of those stages.
With respect to the different stages, I mean, there's different ways to look at this. One of the ways is with numbers. You can look at it from stage 1, stage 2, and then stage 3. Stage 3 would be larger companies. Stage 1, typically, how we define it, I'm not sure the SBA even has a definition for this, but at Violand Management, we've defined it as anywhere up to about $1 million or $1.5 million in revenue. That's that in stone, but that's about where you see these big changes take place. Then stage 2 runs until really the end of what is typically, classically, a small business, which is going to be around $70 million. Big span. If you try to simplify them, which I try to simplify.
And in my opinion, nothing small about that, but that's what it typically is classified. Yeah.
No,
yes.
Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I tried to do, I tried to break it into even a simpler way to look at it. And I view it as the me stage, the we stage, and the them stage. The me stage is that stage one where it really revolves around you. Everything revolves around you, how the decisions,
Yeah.
everything that's taking place. Then you get to a point you can't do it all yourself anymore. And so you get into the we phase.
Mm-mm.
The we phase typically is defined as, okay, this is where we build our team. And you can view that
Mm-hmm.
as, I view it as building your management team, not your frontline people. You've done that in the me phase, but you get your leadership team together in the we phase. And you get them together, you lock arms and you say, let's go slay this. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the we phase. Then you get to the then phase. And the then
Is
phase,
that stage 2? I'm sorry, Chuck.
yeah,
Is the we stage 2? Okay. Okay. I
it
just want to make sure I'm following along with you. Okay.
absolutely. Then you get to
Mm-hmm.
the them phase, and the them phase, while it frequently deals with more mature or larger companies, it can also
Mm-hmm.
take place very early on, even in the me phase of a company. And typically, what
Mm-hmm.
defines that, not dollars, but rather a mindset, giving,
Mm-hmm.
we're giving
Mm-hmm.
back to them, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
people that you employ, whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
customers that you serve, or whether it's the communities that you serve.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, it can be a community the size of where you live, Dublin, or it can be a community of
Mm-hmm.
two, just two people. But yet it's a
Yeah.
giving back mindset defined as the them.
Hmm. So I'm looking back on my experience because I ran a restoration company for a little under 15 years, about 13 years. And you're absolutely right. With the I stage or the stage number 1, it's a lot of hard work. And you have to obviously know what you're doing, and there's a lot of learning curves to it. But a lot of it's just hard work and getting yourself out of that stage 1. Um, and certainly there's, and I'm not minimizing the strategy behind it. There certainly is strategy, but you are working. The classical phrase: you are working in the business. Once you start getting into the stage 2, that's more of a educational approach, and that's more working on the stage. And I like what you've said. It's very challenging to, once you're in that stage 2, to get out of that stage 2 and go into the stage 3. So tell me kind of why that is, the traps people are falling into, and then we'll kind of dig deeper into that a little bit more.
From where? Moving into stage 2 or out of stage 2?
Well, from my understanding, moving out of stage 2 is the hardest stage to move out of. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's stage 1 or stage 2.
Doesn't have to be at all. Look, in the first place, you don't have to move beyond stage 1 or the me phase. You
Yeah,
don't have to do that to be
yeah,
successful.
yeah,
A bunch of examples of people who have no interest in moving out of stage 1. They're happy where they are.
yeah,
Statistically, anywhere from 90 to 96% of all businesses in North America are stage 1. They never scale
yeah.
above $1 million. That's a profound statistic. It's not
Yes,
a
it is.
judgment. That's just a reality. But a lot of
Yeah.
people choose to stay in stage 1 for a variety of reasons. And we may get into that at some point here.
Yeah, let's go into that. Why are people in the stage? And that's a great statistic, because I think stage 1 always lasts longer than people typically realize, if they do have ambitions to get to stage 2.
Yes.
It lasts longer than people initially anticipate it taking, and the grind is so challenging. And man, when am I going to break through the ceiling? When am I going to get past this stage 1 and just feeling like I'm responsible for everything? So how do they break through that? Could you walk through? Because it's going to be helpful for folks that are in stage 1 and they just feel like they're doing something wrong, and they're not doing it right, and that's why they're not growing.
So let me give you, maybe I can help answer that question, Mike, by just describing what I have found to be some of the reasons why they remain in stage 1, or which will also explain why it's
Terrific.
difficult. I mean, there's a million reasons, right? But 2 of them that stand out that I would see happen repeatedly. The first one was that we're control freaks. As small
Yeah.
business owners, most of us we have controlling personalities. We like to
Yes.
control our environment. We like to control our lives. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not judging
Yeah.
anybody, but let's face it, if you're going to insist on controlling everything, there's only so much of you to go around. So you can
Yeah.
only scale so big. And typically that's going to be a self-limiting behavior. Is a very difficult one for many small business owners to finally let go of, because you see it show up in stage 2, stage 3. You still see it show up. They've just become better at managing it. I think another main reason that I have seen is just complexity. I think that, again, I think the reason many small business owners stay small, they do not want to deal with the complexity of a stage 2 or stage 3 company. It's a different animal when you're trying to do that. You have more people. You have typically people that have higher expectations out of their work. They have higher demands. If we're a controlling personality, we're not always open to hearing other people's input. So you have a lot of complexity with that, with qualified people, in the organization. Your money speeds up. One of the things that you notice in small businesses is that as they grow, the money speeds up in the organization. And many of them aren't used to that. They don't want any part of it. And so either intentionally or unintentionally, they'll do whatever is necessary to stay there so that they don't have to deal with it. I think you get into organizational structure. Usually what you see around the $1 million, $1.5 million range is that you cannot continue to scale your business with the same organizational structure that got you to that point.
Yes.
It doesn't revolve around you. And so you have to put pieces in place. You might have been very good when you're stage 1 at hiring people, line workers, maybe even supervisors. But as you get into a larger organization, the hiring process changes. The caliber of people, the things you're looking for, changes. And as a stage 1 company, if you don't want the complexity, you're not going to go there.
Yeah.
One of the things, Mike, I've noticed over the years is that as you see a company starting to approach that transition from stage 1 to stage 2, it's almost like hitting a ceiling, and they'll bump up against it, and they'll shrink back down. They'll bump up against it again, shrink back down. Sometimes they'll go a little bit over it, and then they'll go back down. And so because they haven't brought about the organizational change that's required to maintain it, to keep it up there. You haven't built the scaffolding to keep it up there at stage 2. And until they do that, they're probably just going to continue to fall back down and be incredibly frustrated. That's the sad part.
And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on too. I mean, go a little bit deeper in that. So once we've broken through that ceiling and maintained it for a good amount of time, it's very challenging to stay at that level 2 area from what you have said. And I certainly I can speak from my approach, but my approach is my perspective is very small perspective. It's very macro perspective because it's all. But you talk to people and have talked to people for years and years and years, so you have a much broader understanding of why this is. I can speak onto why I had a hard time staying in stage 2, but what is the main reasons why people are slipping from stage 2 and going back to stage 1? You had mentioned personnel infrastructure. Is there anything else that might be a contributing factor to this?
I think the biggest contributing factor is their mindset. Until a business owner is able to, I'm trying to think of a way to describe this, Mike. Until a business owner is able to adapt the mindset that is required to attract the right caliber of people. Remember, now you have to give up control. And you have to learn to work with with managers and what their demands are. Until they've gotten to that point, they're not going to stay, because they're not going to be able to hold on to those people. From a technical perspective, in other words, how we do our work, drying, restoring, all that kind of stuff, we've got pretty much that down. You're always refining it. You're always trying to improve your quality, but you pretty much have the mechanics of that down.
Yep. Yep.
It's a mind game. It really is a mind game. I know that's an oversimplification. And there's nothing simple. I should say
Yeah.
there's nothing else about it. But that's
So
that's the key.
as a management approach, you always hear the whole adage, hire people that are smarter than you or better at the job than you are. That's kind of the old adage. But when somebody comes in, you have to somewhat train them on culture, which most people miss, fit, just overall SOPs with how the office is doing. And it's challenging for someone to understand what is training versus what's micromanaging and what's development and what's micromanaging, right? Because at the end of the day, like you said, you don't want to be that controlling person because that unlocks growth, but you also want to make sure that you're giving enough support and putting enough blockers for them to do their job. So this is going to be a very challenging question. But is there something that you have found, a skill set or methodology or something that somebody has found or a nice mix that people have found? And maybe it's just a cadence of how long an onboarding typically takes for maybe more of a senior level role. So again, very challenging question to answer because it's very situational, but I think that that's something that I struggled with, and I think people are struggling with as well. It's letting people have responsibility and ownership of their job, but also being the leader and giving them enough support going forward as well.
Mike, actually, that's a very good question. It's a very big question.
It is. It is.
I'm going to try to break it down a little bit deeper. I'm glad you brought up the whole onboarding thing. That is an area that we frequently see that is short-suited when they bring people on.
Mm-hmm.
They view onboarding as one day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to orient them.
Yeah.
Orientation is one thing. Onboarding is a different thing.
Yeah.
Onboarding can take a year. Sometimes it can take longer than that. We happen at Violand Management, we happen to have a very long onboarding process because there's a lot to absorb.
Yes.
And to have somebody get to the point where they're feeling comfortable doing their job. Well, guess what gets in the way of that? An owner's attention span.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll speak about entrepreneurs, and keep in mind, I'm an entrepreneur as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I write a lot of this stuff looking in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
We typically have short attention spans. We get bored very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I'm going to show you how to do something, I'm going to get bored after I do that one time.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't learn that way.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we expected people in our organizations to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we generally call that a whole lot shorter than it needs to be. Now, that's one place to do it. The other one is giving them the latitude to fail. That is hard. Okay. I mean, we're counting dollars.
Sometimes you can see the trains coming on the tracks too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you don't want anybody killed in the process, especially the business. But nonetheless, look, you've got kids. I've got kids.
Yep.
If they don't fall down and skin their knees, we're depriving them of valuable lessons. Look at the lesson we were talking before we were live here. You were talking about taking your kids out for ice cream. And the incredible lesson that they learned when they heard how much the children's scoop was going to be, and think, wait a minute, this is the week's that I'm going to be spending. Mike, people spend a lot of money in graduate school learning that very same lesson. You're teaching it to your kids. It's no different when we have somebody in our organizations.
Yeah.
But now that's going to go back to our controlling personality. And not just controlling, but we like to be the hero.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
We wrap ourselves up in that cloak of being the answer guy. I'm going to have the
business
answer.
won't survive without us kind of a mentality.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. But that's a mind game. So until a mental game, until we can manage that, mindset, that behavior, however you want to define it, we're going to struggle with continuing to scale our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that helped answer that question.
No, it really did, because it is a challenge. I mean, there's a lot of facets to that question. Like you said, it's the controlling nature, it's the onboarding, it's the how do we let people make mistakes without interfering, which is micromanaging. I mean, I understood the scope of the question when I was asking, and I think you delicately handled it. and gave a real explanation as to how to navigate that. And again, there's no silver bullet with that. It's constantly growing and understanding understanding how different people are managed as well. So it's very situational too. So
And Mike, to your point, there's an awful lot of collateral damage that typically comes along with that, with
yes, there
mishires.
is.
You know,
Yes.
we think we had the right person. What we ended up hiring was somebody that was like us. Wrong.
Yes.
We don't need one more of us. What we
Yeah.
complementing skills
Yeah.
can make us better leaders
Yes.
if we're open
Yes.
to being coached by them.
We hire who we like, and we like someone who's similar to us. And that trap happens a lot. So
I never needed another Chuck Violand at Violand Management. I can pray.
same with me. One
One
Mike
was-
Seibert's enough. Yeah. So want to go over lost focus. So once we do break through the stage 2 and we're comfortable at stage 2, and we've been running at stage 2 for a while, we're not slipping back. We've got good hires. We've got them in place. We're managing them well. We're not micromanaging them, so they're operating without us. I always make the analogy, we can go on vacation and turn the cell phone off for a week, and the place isn't going to cave in without us. Now we're getting to that point where loss of focus seems to start to creep in, and that's how you describe it. So explain what that is beyond what I just said, and how, what that looks like, and how we can identify it, and how we can fix it.
Loss of focus really gets down to having a business plan or having a plan that you're working from, knowing what the destination is. Most business owners, small business owners, have a plan for where they want to go, and we hold it tightly between our ears. We don't write it down.
Share it. Yep.
Exactly. And look, when you have managers in your business whose performance is typically measured by that plan, they want to see what it, ideally, they want to have a voice in helping write it. And then they're certainly going to have a voice in executing it.
They'll have buy-in.
If we don't take the time to write that plan, then it's going to stall your company, because you're not going to be able to attract the caliber of people that you need to help scale it, or the people that you have they're not going to see a future, so they're going to find someplace else to work. I worked with a guy, and I tell the story in the booklet. I worked with a guy years ago who, great guy. I just love him to death. Still do. Okay, still good friends.
Yeah.
And every year he would write a plan. Okay, we'd sit down, write the plan, and he had a really good controller in his business, accountant in his business, who would do the budgeting. And so the controller was very good about putting together the budget. It was a beautiful budget. And they would think through how they want to grow the business and all the stuff they're going to do. And then nothing was done. He would hold it close to his vest. He wouldn't share it with the people in his organization. The accountant knew what it was, but he wasn't given marching orders on it. He was just working the numbers in the business. So he couldn't move forward with it. That is where I see the loss of focus. It's not just a loss of focus, it's not having a focus. We move the target on a regular basis as business owners. We're accustomed to doing it. We're allowed to do that. We're the business owner, right?
Yep.
So, this week we're going to be going here. We're going to do this. And then a week later, we walk back into the office and go, I was just at a seminar, and this guy says we should do this over here. And so we lay out this new list.
It's the shiny object syndrome. Yep. Yeah.
People are just going, what is it this week, Mike?
Yeah.
What is it this week, Chuck?
Yeah.
And so when you write a plan and you lay it out for everybody to see, and then you stick to it and execute on it, that's when you've got, when you avoid loss of focus in your business.
So Chuck, when you talk about getting everyone to kind of row in the same direction is what I like to call it, getting everyone on the same path and rowing in the right direction, what do you find to be most helpful in defining that clear vision? Is it financial metrics? Is it vision, more soft skills? Is it, hey, this is the clients we want to pick up? And then how do we disseminate that information into the organization and create buy-in as well? I love what you said is having kind of the management and the C-suite, so to speak. I know that's corporate talk, but the management team involved in creating this because it creates buy-in. But if I'm a technician, do I really care about what my profitability is, or do I really care about what, my financial goals are? So how do we, in a nutshell, how do we create this plan? What do we need to include in that plan? And how do we institute it so everyone has buy-in on that plan?
That's a great question. As far as the technicians, depending on the size of the business and really how long the technician has been with you, but primarily what I have found is that most frontline people, they're interested in, am I going to get paid this week? Do I like my boss? And will I have a job next year?
Yep.
Fair enough. Okay. Now,
Yep.
as they start moving up, those desires become bigger.
Yeah.
As far as what is included in the plan, all of those things that you mentioned are included in the plan.
Okay.
The
All right.
key is to keep it as simple as you can.
Okay.
We do strategic planning retreats every year for small business owners, and it includes a budget. So you're forecasting numbers, you're forecasting your sales out over the coming year. You also deal with a vision. The vision is, where do we want to be in 7 to 10 years? It's all based on your mission. Your mission,
Yeah.
if your mission is part of your mission is your core values. What do we stand for? So you want to make sure that those are solid. Then you take a look at the vision that's about 5 to 7 years or 7 to 10 years, and you bring it back to the following year. And you say, okay, if I want to be there in 7 years, what do I need to do this year in order to get 1 year closer to it? So you lay out what we refer to as major business objectives, 1 or 2, most 3 major business objectives. And they're usually big chunks of things that you need to work on. They can be something like, well, we've lost money for the last year. So the first thing we want to do is we want to reverse that trend. We want to be profitable in the coming year. And we want to be this much profitable in the coming year. Maybe you've had high turnover. And so you're saying we need to correct the hiring and the environment that we're providing for our people so that we can reduce our turnover in our people. I mean, major business objectives usually are big, but they're always on the way to where you want to be in 10 years. And you always surround that with your budget. You got to pay for it. So we can have all kinds of great ideas that we can never afford to do.
Yeah.
So it always has to follow that budget.
Are folks literally printing this out and putting it in their office? Are they discussing it during meetings? Are they doing it during hiring? Are they doing all three? I mean, what's the best way to? Culture's a tricky thing. You have a culture whether you know it or not. Is what I've heard said a lot. I have very little original ideas, Chuck, as you'll notice. I poach a lot of things from other people, but you certainly want to cultivate this culture, but I think sometimes if it goes overboard, it can kind of look like, drinking the Kool-Aid kind of a thing, and rah-rahing the troops. So what's an appropriate level of getting people to buy in, and how do we physically make people aware of the shared vision?
Well, Mike, I'm surprised to hear you say that. Do you print this and hold it out? I'm looking at your age, and I'm thinking, look, when I started, we printed it out. Okay, we handwrote it. We used calculators, not spreadsheets. So anyway, now it's all digital, right? And you can print it out if you want, but it's all digital. And so the best way to get buy-in is to get weigh-in, and I'm borrowing that phrase.
Okay.
So if I want to get weigh-in, I'm going to have my key people involved in developing the plan. You sit down, you have limited amount of time. You sit down and you lay out where we want to go. And then, they add their thoughts to it, then you refine it. And then that becomes the marching orders for this year, your major business objectives, which will then have strategies to achieve those, and then projects and just stuff, the daily stuff that has to take place. Now, how often do you take a look at your plan?
Yeah.
Minimum once a month. You get together with everybody at least once a month, and you sit down and you review the progress on the plan. Typically, the people who help you write it will also have their name attached to one of the objectives or one of the approaches.
Love that.
And so they have to report back on the progress that they're making. Now, Mike, I'm going to tell you that one of the things that I've observed, and again, from doing this a lot and, quite frankly, looking in the mirror, many business owners are really good at sitting down and writing a really nice plan.
Yep.
Where we fall down is the execution piece, because that
Yep.
requires repetition and follow through, and it challenges us. So my
Persistence.
advice always to business owners who are doing this, put that in somebody else's hands. Your job is to champion it. Their job is to make sure that you're following through on the meetings, or that people are turning reports in on it. Your job is to say, and also you have your name on it too, so you have to follow up with things that you're responsible for. Just interesting you'd ask that question right now. Just this morning, I was at the office of Violand management, and the leadership team was together doing our quarterly review. We review it every month, but we were reviewing the first quarter on our business plan. And it's all digital, it's all up on the screen, and it's in real time. So you can go in at any time. Anybody in the company can go in at any time and update or take notes on any of the strategies that we're trying to work on.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned, you have a concept, checking out, right? And what does that look like in real life, professionally, obviously, and how do we kind of identify that? And the hardest part is curtailing that and checking us and getting us back into it. So could you explain that concept a little bit and how you've seen that creep into people's professional lives?
Oh, yeah. In the booklet, I write about a story, an actual incident with a client I had been working with for years. And he had grown a nice, successful, very successful restoration company. And I was in visiting him, just doing a site visit. And we're sitting at a light in the downtown of the city where he was located. And he looks over at me. He was driving. He looks over at me. He says, "Chuck, I'm bored." Right then, I mean, I got a chill up my spine when he said, because that is a 5-letter word that is the death knell of a company when a small business owner gets bored.
Yeah.
We check out, and you can usually see it in their words, you can see it in their actions, you can see it in their eyes, when they're no longer juiced by the business. Many small business owners have a high need for adrenaline rushes. We love the endorphins. And when we're no longer getting them from our business, we'll find someplace else to get that rush. And so, that's one of the ways that it happens. I've seen it happen to people who have health issues. When you lose your health, it's very difficult to pay attention to a business. And that's legitimate. And so, I mean, you just try to get that back on track. If you're having marital problems, if you do not have spousal support in your business,
yes,
it is grind.
It is.
And so, you try to deal with that. And I'm not a family counselor. I'm a management consultant. But you realize I can't deal with it. But he needs to get help with it. I've seen it happen when they had a death in the family of a loved one. And so you're dealing with a whole lot of different things that can compound that, but also just plain old, the client I was working with, plain old boredom. I'm not energized by the business anymore. And I'm looking for another place to get energized, which is exactly what he was doing. He had already investigated this. And now my job changed. In an instant, my job changed. It went from scaling a business to keeping it on the rails.
Yeah.
Was it difficult?
I've noticed that as well as I've progressed in my career. There's so many things, and I've seen it happen to other people. There's so many things, like you said, that can just derail it, right? And just really sidetrack you. And thankfully, with my wife, I started owning a business right out of college. So I started a business right out of college. So when I met her, it was out after college. So she knew what she was signing up for.
You knew what she was marrying.
She knew she was marrying. I started my restoration company, and it was just me in a truck, and I was doing everything. I was marketing. I was sucking water. So she knew that when the phone rang and I had a job on a Saturday night, unfortunately, date night was canceled that night, even though it was planned. So when she said, I do, it meant a lot because she knew what she was signing up for. And so thankfully, I've been able to kind of work past that environment, and things are a little bit more predictable now, but she definitely knows the highs and the lows. So there are certainly life events that that throw you off, and there's really not much you can do about it. I mean, divorce, like you said, relationships, death in the family. There's a lot of things that just occur that you can't. Boredom is a massive challenge for most entrepreneurs that I encounter as well, including myself too, because we like to dictate our own schedule. We are curious people in general, and so the way that we expand on our skills and are curious, we tend to chase things down in different experiences, and like you said, get that rush. So success is not chasing the shiny toy; it's finding what works and execute that and to its full potential, which goes against our nature as an entrepreneur. So when that person comes to you and says, yes, I am bored, Chuck, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to excite myself in this business, what are some key things that they can do to kind of get them back focused on that business?
First thing I do when a client brings that to me is I'll say, okay, let's go back and pull out your vision and pull out your mission. Let's take a look at those two documents. Your vision is where you're going. Your mission is why you're going there. And so I'll say, let's read them and see if they still have meaning. Do they still sing to you? And if they don't, then does it just need update to get re-energized? And if not, and if you cannot buy back into it, which is very rare, quite frankly, if you can't buy back into it, then maybe it's just time to move on. That's the first place that I go. And then, typically in the course of that conversation, Mike, they end up talking about the people in their organization. And so they're remembering what was so important to them when they started the business.
Yeah.
And is it still important now? And that's what we try to get back to.
I don't have very many hobbies. I don't play golf. I don't do any of that. I like to research, and I like to do, that's such a dork, Chuck. I like to do pro formas in my free time. So I like to look at businesses and kind of and that kind of satisfies my ability to kind of always be looking and trying out new things. But my 9 to 5, I know it's much more than a 9 to 5, but my 9 to 5, that expression is fully focused on the business, but I allow myself to drift a little bit on weekends and at nights rather than just sitting and watching a movie. I like to do that. So that's been helpful for me as well.
And there's nothing all wrong with it.
Yeah.
Got to stay energized. Incidentally, I had a similar situation with my wife when we got married, because I was already in business. I had owned a business at that time.
Okay.
She knew well what she was getting into, and we were all good.
Yeah. Very good. So arrested professional growth, how does that impact explain what that is, and how does that impact the growth of a business?
Yeah, arrested professional growth. Let me just give a couple of baseline things here, Mike. First of all, a business is only going to grow at the rate and the size that the business owner grows himself. So business is stalled. The first place I look is, okay, what are you doing to develop yourself? Your own leadership skills, your own technical skills. What are you doing to develop yourself? And if you're not doing something, it would explain a lot about why the business isn't growing. The other thing to keep in mind is, the current owner of Violand Management, the guy that I sold it to, was my general manager. Tim and I have worked together for 17 years. He coined a term years ago called the short ladder. And he goes, in small businesses, you don't have big corporate ladders that you're climbing. You have a short ladder with very few rungs. You have to find a way in a small business to keep your people engaged if you expect them to stay with you for any length of time. And so a lot of it gets down to developing the people within your organization. But it also involves developing you. And this goes back to one of your opening comments about the difference between training and development. And training are typically technical skills. And we all need technical skills, and they all need refined from time to time just to keep them in tune. But it's different than developing. When you're talking about development, you're talking about emotional development, you're talking about intellectual development, leadership development. That's what you look for in a small business owner.
Mhm.
You might be familiar with the term emotional intelligence.
Mhm.
Emotional intelligence, the two-letter word for that is EQ as
Mhm.
opposed to IQ.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not going to affect your IQ very much, and neither are you from the time you're a kid.
I wish you could.
Oh, let me tell you, so do I.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we can affect, the good news is that we can significantly affect our EQ.
Mhm.
And study after study has shown that those people who develop their emotional intelligence typically perform better in their professions than
Mm.
people who don't have high EQ.
Mhm.
So if you want to grow your business, grow
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
Learn to become more emotionally intelligent.
Mhm.
Emotional intelligence, basically self-awareness, self-management, drive, empathy, and then the ability to build relationships.
Mhm.
Work on those skills.
Mhm.
And invariably, you're going to grow your business.
Mhm.
And so that's what you look for when I'm talking about when we have arrested professional growth. I also refer to that as leadership debt, but it's arrested professional growth. If you're not growing, more than
Mhm.
likely your people are,
Mhm.
and at some point they're going to catch up to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they catch up to you, they're going to go, okay, is there another step for me here, or do I need to look elsewhere?
Mhm.
And then we end up having people leave us, and we don't realize that the reasons they're leaving us is because we'd stopped growing.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I think that and we're going to go over this here in a moment, but I wonder if ego has a place in that as well. And the owners have an ego, and I've got it figured out. I'm having to pull people along and push people along to get to them to my level, and they work so much on that they're not developing themselves because they are so more interested in bringing people to their level, but they're not growing in pacing with the rest of your employees, which I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm in the training world, so I train technicians and boots on the ground, estimators, project managers, those type of people. And yes, it's very challenging to find these folks, train them. It's even harder to hold on to them. I talk to a lot of people, a lot of owners when they come to us, and they always say it's hard to attract people and it's hard to keep them on. Okay, what are you doing? And they immediately go to pay. That's immediately what they do is they say, well, this is what I'm paying, and this is the market rate, and this is the competitive market rate, and I'm right there with them. And then I give them raises on this, and this time. So I don't know why they're leaving because they're getting paid fairly and they're getting raises, which is great. That's a foundational issue. So we need to start with that.
Table
But
stakes.
more and more, and you know this better than anybody, but more and more employees, especially at a younger generation, are looking for more of the intangibles in a job, and they're way more interested in the culture, how, like you said, how they can progress and how they can have future personal growth, quality of work, and also like what the mission is. So how are they bettering their community, which is great for us because if you're in a retail environment and you're selling body lotion, that's really tough to kind of like, it's a health beauty, but it's really tough to kind of like give them a good mission. Where for us, we're literally saving people from fires, floods, mold, that kind of thing. So that's a pretty easy box to check off. I mean, we have a very high mission. But
Yeah.
it's the quality of work and quality work environment that's challenging for us because it's a tough job to do. So that's kind of what I always go towards is personal development and the intangibles in order to recruit and also keep a hold of employees as well.
Look, if you're developing your people, that's part of your culture. If
Yeah.
you're not developing your people, that's part of your culture. And so tell me
Yeah.
when you would rather be, which one you
Yeah.
would rather be, where you would rather be. And
Yeah.
I agree with the money part. That's table stakes for staying in the
That's it.
game, getting in the
Yep.
game,
Getting in the
versus
game
keeping in the game.
or
And
staying in the game. Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
So developing your people is, I mean, that's critical. That's not optional anymore.
Yeah.
I have a guy I used to work with, dear friend, colleague, Bill Yaden. Many people listening to this podcast might know Bill Yaden. I worked with Bill for years at John Don. And one of the comments that he made, he goes, it's the age-old thing. What if you train your people and they leave? And he'd go, well, what if you don't train them and they stay?
Well, that's really funny. That's
Well, it's great, though. It's so true.
What's worse?
I know. You don't want them. I mean, can you imagine explaining that to your customer? Mrs. Jones, we don't train our people. Okay.
We want them to stick around. We don't train them. We want them so bad no one else will employ them. Yeah. That's funny. Well, let's go to the swollen ego, because that seems to affect a lot of the growth, personal, professional, and then also the business and the people around us too. Because if we're not progressing and we're not learning, then we can't teach the people around us, which is stunting their professional growth too. So there's a lot to this. So explain your theory with swollen ego and how that plays a role in everything. It seems to be.
Couple opening thoughts around that. Number one is my experience has been that when an owner's ego is out of control, and what it means is that they're making business decisions on how they're going to look or feel rather than on good data, business is set up to stall. I mean, it happens all the time. Here's an interesting analogy that I put together in a presentation that I do. And it says, I asked the question up front and goes, what do Mother Teresa, Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, Buddha, Jesus Christ all have in common?
I don't know. No idea.
They all changed the world with humility.
Yeah.
That's the key. Every one of those people were humble people. They didn't need to be braggarts. They were able to affect the world with their leadership and humility. It's exactly the same thing. As business owners, Mike, we're in a high-risk category of having an inflated ego. I mean, it's a pretty smoking gig owning a business, right?
Yep.
And especially in a country of laws where somebody can't come in and take your business away from you.
Yes.
And they'll stand behind you. We hit the lottery with this.
Yep.
And so it's easy to think that we have more to do with our success than we actually do. There's a good book that was written years ago by a business author named Jim Collins. Some of your listeners might recognize that name. Good to Great, Built to Last. But he also wrote one called How the Mighty Fall. And he profiled large businesses.
I'm going to write that one down. How the Mighty Fall. Okay. Okay.
And he profiled large multinational businesses. And he discovered, this guy does a ton of research. And he came up with 5 distinct steps that a company goes through as it goes into decline, like stage 2 salt. The very first one is hubris. So in other words, the business owner starts to think that he's too big, too successful to fail. And then you start making stupid decisions in your business, which is what happens. And that is not limited to just big businesses. I've seen it happen with small businesses all the time.
Yeah.
It's difficult to hold on to people. And when you start seeing turnover in your organization because of your ego, you're going to have a very difficult time continuing to scale because you can't hold on to people. And so you don't have to be arrogant. I mean, we demonstrate an outsized ego in a million different ways, some of them very subtly. But you really want to pay, as a business owner, and the counsel, the advice I would give anybody watching this is, because I give it to myself, always take a look, always realize that you're in a high-risk category. People say nice things about you, you're being successful, you're making money, and now all of a sudden your ego starts to pop up and start talking to you. Understand what it's saying to you. And shoot, you can even go to AI and type a prompt into what the AI what's that GPT going to compete you with? Hey, that's a great question. I'm glad you went that deep with it.
You just suck it.
You're blowing smoke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it happens all around us. So just recognize that, okay, you're in a high-risk category. We internally at Violand Management, I'll give you a little peek here. We have an expression that we use. if we find ourselves having to have a conversation with a client, and we do from time to time, about their ego, because we know what the end game is.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well.
It's not going to go well. Yeah.
Well, we know that when we bring that whole ego thing up, that's usually what we call a fire the consultant conversation. So that's funny. They don't want to hear from the consultant. Dial tone or they go dark on you.
Well, lost another one for an honest conversation. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just be aware. People will occasionally ask me, well, how do I know if my ego is out of control? And I'll say, here are 3 expressions that you can ask yourself how easy it is to say these. The first one is please. How easy is it for you to ask permission to do something rather than simply giving a directive? Okay, you need this done, go do this. Ask. Doing the same thing, you're going to have the same result. Say please. And then say thank you. How often do you say thank you? How easy is it for you to say thank you? And when you're saying thank you, maybe what you're saying to somebody is, I'm validating you. So if you're in a meeting, let's go back to the business planning thing, Mike. If you're in a meeting and a manager comes up with an idea, a really solid idea, to your organization, thank you. I would never have thought of it. But a lot of business owners, their egos don't allow them to have that conversation.
Yeah, that's a position of humility right there, by giving the credit to them. Yeah.
And then the last one is probably the most difficult for small business owners that have observed, and that is saying, I'm sorry, apologizing, and not explaining it, not saying, but here's why I did that. They don't want to hear why you did that. Apologize, leave it alone. Tell people I'm sorry. Now, I would love to say that I invented those 3 things. I did not. I borrowed them from a guy named Marshall Goldsmith, who is a high-profile, high-level executive coach to leaders in industry, in a book he wrote. But I've used them myself. I've used them with clients. If you apologize to somebody, you say it with meaning, you say it without explanation, and you wait for acceptance. Usually, one apology is not going to be enough, so be prepared. You're going to have to apologize more than once until they say thank you or they say I accept your apology. So it's hard to do.
It's very hard. It's very hard to do, and I think the reason why it's hard to do is because a leader is always looked upon as confident and secure with themselves, and not vulnerable, and that is showing some vulnerability and really kind of exposing yourself for not having all the answers, and that's challenging for people to do. So, and you need to be confident, and you need all those things too. I mean, those things are important in leadership, but I think if done properly, you'll gain more respect for being able to self-identify yourself a little bit more and better.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Interesting you'd say that about confidence. Just we do peer groups, and so as part of these peer groups, we have discussions within the peer groups, and we just this past month with the peer groups that I'm still involved with, we had a section in there. We had a 2-hour discussion on the question. The topic was the confidence trap, when strengths become a blind spot. There were questions that we asked on that, and we went around the room. Everybody just weighed in on it. When have you found yourself, with a blind spot? You thought you knew something, you ended up not knowing it. What do you think? How do you think your people shut down? How do you unintentionally have them shut down just by the way that you're presenting yourself? And so we do this all the time. We don't even know it.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
Well, Chuck, thank you so much for all your time. I don't want to leave anything on the table. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you'd like to touch on today, or anything else that I wasn't able to speak upon or ask you about?
No, we covered a lot of real estate, Mike. It was great, and I'm happy to join you again whenever you find the moment or whenever you feel that it's appropriate. But I think something that I don't want to leave the wrong impression with people, that when you overcome stage 2 stall, that you end up in this land of plenty and milk and honey and everything is glorious. It's not. You're always going to have challenges. Running a business is a journey of struggle and learning. Okay. And so it's part of the journey, but you have better problems. You're not repeating it.
I have found this is how I handle those situations, or that mindset is we are built for stress. Certain levels of stress are good for us. If we do not have any stress, then we're not mentally staying in the game. So if you reverse that and say stress is there's no end game to this. There's no rainbow at the end of this. Like you had mentioned, and understand that stress is a part of it, and we're not going to all of a sudden get to a destination and unlock some kind of stress-free lifestyle. I think is a more appropriate way to live. And I've seen this with some owners who have sold their businesses, where they feel like that once they're been hyper focused on selling their business, and they say, well, if I can just sell the business, then I can, sip pina coladas on the beach all day, and they find out that that's not fulfilling, that they need to have some level of stress in their life. So totally 100% on board with that philosophy.
Mike, I'm convinced after so many years of doing this that there's a masochist hiding out inside every small business owner somewhere.
Yeah.
You need to get beat.
100%. We get bored if we don't. It goes back to the boredom thing. We
People
need
don't love me.
challenges. We hate it, but we need it. It's an affliction that we all have. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks, Chuck. Hey, before we go though, I know you sold your consulting firm, but you're still involved in it in some respects. So if somebody wants to learn more, or if some of this resonates, and we touched on a very small percentage of what you guys do and the depth of knowledge you have. So if there's something that we didn't cover today you're having problems with, don't think that your consulting firm or you can't handle that. But right. What's a typical customer for you if they're stuck, and what can you help them out with, and how do they get a hold of you? Like, what would be the next steps if they want to explore this a little bit more with you guys?
Well, we work with businesses in the trades. So if you're in the trades, people that make money with their hands, that's our niche. If you want to reach us, you can reach us at www.violand.com or at office@violand.com.
Okay.
And so just reach out there. And if you want to get a hold of me personally, get a hold of the office and they'll put you in touch with me.
Okay. So that would be just start the conversation and then see where that goes from there.
That's really what it is. You call up and you'll talk. They'll typically put you in touch with Jeff Jones. He's our director of sales and marketing. And Jonesy, you'll get on the phone with Jonesy. He's been doing this now for, 12 years, I think. And he'll get into a conversation with you. And we are not high pressure. Now, everybody says that we are not high pressure, probably to a fault. But what he'll do is he'll try to discover, are the challenges that you're having something that we would be able to help you with? Mm-hmm. If not, then we're not your person. But he's also going to take a look at it and say, okay, is the timing right? Mm-hmm. It isn't always the right time for a client. Sometimes they need to work through some things in their business before they engage with us. There's no sense in wasting money, working with us yet. At some point, maybe. Mm-hmm. So, but he'll help you decide. And we work with businesses, whether they're trying to scale, whether they're trying to turn around because they've had a bad patch of business, or because they're trying to transition out. They're trying to sell it. We deal with businesses for all those reasons.
Great. Well, thanks, Chuck. Again, I've heard your name a lot in the industry, so I woke up this morning really looking forward to speaking with you and digging into these topics. So thanks for carving out time in your schedule and talking with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Mike. I really appreciate it.